All right, we're going to do a pause, and we can do a quick, that was great. Now we're going to, just need that punch. Welcome to Results with Drones, the podcast for those who want to know how and learn best practices on using their drones commercially. Join us! Third approach.
All right, great.
Today, we are proud to spend time with a former 22-year member of the U.S. Air Force, where he was an award-winning photojournalist and chief of public affairs. He's gone on to being a member of the board of directors for the Professional Society of Drone Journalists, as well as starting his own aerial photography company, Propellerheads Aerial Photography. He has over 14 years of flying, building, and repairing drones.
Lots of repairs.
His work has appeared in Wired magazine, Professional Photographer magazine, and Reuters, to name a few. You can find him on the web at
Propheads Photo.
You can find him on the web at propheadphotos.com. Ladies and gentlemen, Parker Gyokeres. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I have been flying professionally for about 3.5 years now. I left the Air Force in 2014 to start this, and I have started by building my own stuff. And we ended up, right about the time the Inspire came out, realizing that the synergy of the hardware that they provide can't be beat by the stuff that we can build. So we went from being a home build operation to being store-bought, and our product quality has gone up incredibly because we're not messing with the drone, we're using the drone to capture imagery and to do our jobs. And it was kind of a refocusing for us to stop being, nerd kings. Oh yeah, we can build this thing, but why if you can just buy it? And so it's changed the way that we do our jobs, and it's made our clients a lot happier as well.
So Parker, why did you start a drone business?
It was for me, the journey into drones was a logical series of steps to get the shots that I needed when I was in the Air Force. I was a photographer for a Air Force unit that did a lot of remote and austere environment setups. And so we would always be arriving at an empty field and setting up our tents. And I wanted an aerial shot of this thing coming to life, this empty field turning into an air base. Mm-hmm. And the cheap bastards wouldn't give me a helicopter. So I had built my own. I figured I just needed to lift something about the size of a GoPro, and so I've always wanted to get into. I flew RC planes, and I figured I was going to fly a small drone, and so I ended up building my own. I ended up building a tricopter very similar to this, and I stuck a GoPro just mounted hard to the front of it. This is a Fortis Titan. It's an amazing drone. If you want to get into building your own, I would strongly suggest getting this because it's indestructible. It's held together with zip ties and rubber bands, so if you punch it into the ground, it's not going to break. So flew a GoPro on this and did just set the camera to time lapse. So it would take a picture every 2 seconds and just take off and just hope it was in the right direction and land and get the shots. And the cameras, the requirements for better cameras started getting, higher, and I wanted to be able to stabilize the camera. And so you needed a gimbal. Sure. And then to lift a gimbal, you needed to lift a drone that could lift a gimbal. And then they started exponentially going up. And my first drone was a 450 millimeter quadcopter that lifted a GoPro. Okay. And then we got into NEX5 cameras and then A6000 cameras. It's still in the small gimbal size. And we were getting pretty good results. We were probably getting 40 to 50% of our footage was usable, which is good at the time because the gimbals were kind of terrible. And then, so we ended up becoming the people called that we were the only ones really crazy enough to get a drone that worked and get it flying. At the time, you had to build all the stuff from 100 different parts. So you had to be able to assemble a series of subsystems into an overall drone that flew. And it was kind of king of the nerd stuff. Okay. You had to learn a lot. There was not a lot of places to learn it. The learning curve was vertical because you'd screw it up, you'd break it, you'd destroy it, and it'd cost you money. So it was kind of, you had to be too stupid to realize it was a bad idea at first. And then for long, you got good enough to actually be able to pull it off. And then you go, oh, hell. And then the stuff started getting store-bought, which is a real big chip on the shoulder that had to be knocked off. When I'm thinking, well, you just store-bought your drone. You're not a drone pilot. And then I ended up borrowing one, and it was amazing. I was like, oh, damn it. Now I'm one of you now. I bought an Inspire. I borrowed an Inspire, took it to a DoD workshop, and ended up keeping it, not giving it back. I gave the guy the money that he spent on it. I'm like, you're not getting your drone back. Sorry. And switched over as much as I could at that point. The problem with those first Inspires was the sensor size. It wasn't nearly as good as the A6000 we were flying. It had a much larger sensor, better light, more pixels. We went down to a 12 megapixel camera with the X3. Okay. It was a compromise, but the footage was smooth and stable and worked. And so screwing around with making sure everything was post-processed properly and getting 20% of our footage good to use, we were getting 100% of our footage, and the compromise wasn't noticed by the client. So, okay, I guess we're filthy store-bought drone pilots now. So right now, we are using almost exclusively. We've got a heavy lift drone that we're rebuilding now that lifts a Ronin MX, but we're using commercial gimbals because they work great and they tie through the flight control system like everything else does now. And we're a business now that does commercial drone filming, and we do a lot of industrial stuff, and we do a lot of commercial photography, and we do a lot of realty photography. And, my saying is we'll fly for food. I don't care if it's, well, I do care. I do want it to be, race cars and supermodels, but,
you can't always have that all the time.
I'm a living, breathing human being. Don't judge me. I'd love to chase BMWs all day, and we've done that and it's amazing. But I don't mind getting in my car and driving to a construction site and making a couple friends and flying some photos and coming home and post-processing the images and delivering them and making myself enough money to, keep the bills going for another couple of days. So it's a business. You can't be picky when they're paying you to do what you do for a living, and it's to fly RC planes. So I love it.
Wonderful. What was, once you started out, what was one of your biggest challenges you had of starting your own business, and how did you overcome that?
One of the biggest problems that we had when we started was the cost of equipment and the churn of equipment. It was expensive to purchase this stuff. If it was superseded by technology that you needed to purchase it, the old stuff was worthless. You'd have a crash and you had one, you're done. Something like this would take over a month to build, and it has 100 different parts, and it's made from a bunch of different manufacturers from China. And if you had a problem with something, you had to order new parts and wait for the parts to show up. Right. On a store-bought drone now, you can go to B&H or Autorama or Amazon, and you can have a new drone, a completely different system that flies exactly like the one that you had before, instantly. Okay. I can go to the nose store. I could pick up someone else's Inspire and fly it, and it'll fly exactly like my Inspire. Someone who picks this up is going to have to learn it first. It's not simple, and it isn't turnkey. So the learning curve is steeper. But when I'm using modern technology, but at the time, you'd have to build it yourself. Inevitably, there were problems. The reliability was somewhere around 80%, and you just stress over the last 20%. You would just it would just eat you alive on the way to the job going, God, I hope I don't embarrass myself today. You have to have a little bit of a loss of pride, because sooner or later you're going to have a problem and you're not going to be able to pull it off. You hope you can blame it on the weather. You can hope you can blame it on other factors. But a lot of times it's just, well, the motor fell off, or, the motor died, or the gimbal won't work, or the camera's dead, or something. Of the 100 things that you had to think of, you forgot one of them. So the hardest part was learning humility at first, and learning that it was not a guaranteed system at first. And you had to be able to be providing a service to clients that they couldn't provide for themselves. And this stuff is hard. One of our favorite sayings is, so kids, you want to be a drone pilot. You think it's easy. You think it's just you show up with your job and you take off and you fly and you make your money and you leave. But to get to that point, I've got a lot of gear in this garage or in this shop. I've got a lot of experience in troubleshooting for years and years and years. Someone who came out, just bought their first drone, and they're doing it professionally. They're technically capable, but their aptitude is lacking. So they go, I had a flyaway. I don't know how to fix it. Did you do all this, and this, and this when you had a flyaway? No, I never thought of that. So, well, that's what you need to be doing, man. You've got a FAA license and you're charging yourself professional rates to clients. You need to know how to do that. That comes with experience. I can't teach somebody that. They have got to make those mistakes on their own. Because I can tell you and you'll be like, oh, that's cool. And you won't know until you slodge, the sudden loss of judgment moment. When you just go, boom. Because drones don't fall slowly. They don't fail. They just drop. And then it's all over. And if you don't have a plan, if you weren't in the right spot, if you didn't have a backup, if you didn't have all the stuff lined up, you're going to have a bad time. So the biggest problem I'm having now is it's a business.
Okay.
I've got insurance. I've got payroll. I've got vehicle maintenance. I've got drones that are superseded every 6 months now instead of every year. You know, I have a full suite of Inspire 1 hardware. I've got 2 drones and a bunch of batteries and backup cameras and backup transmitters and a full backup equipment suite. I've got a Matrice 600 with a Ronin MX. I've got a lot of rig and a lot of equipment to be able to do production work. And then the Inspire 2 comes out with a better camera that's faster, that's flies longer, flies better in the cold. It's smarter, but it's going to cost me $10,000. Suddenly, the drones that I had that would cost me $12,000 are now worth $3,000. And I have...
Do you feel it's worthwhile holding on to the last generation drones?
You should buy the best drone that you can afford at the time you can buy the drone. But if you're just getting started, 2 or 3 rungs below the top, you won't notice the difference until you're at the top level. And I'm saying this because by the time you start making enough money with your aptitude as a pilot and as a photographer, the drone won't matter at that point.
Right. Okay.
It's just, a shitty craftsman blames his tools. If you say, oh, if I just had a faster drone, I'd be able to get this shot. Or you can turn it into, put it in an Addy and fly with the wind and have the car go the opposite direction. There's ways around the problem. You can have the car slow down. You don't need to fly the drone faster if you know what I mean? There are ways to fix problems that work around the limitations of your technology. And a drone is a study in compromises. It's never going to be a full-size SLR that you can control as easily as you can. You know, there's always compromises. Will it be able to fly forever? No. Will it be able to fly as fast as you want? No. Will it be able to fly as easily and as quickly as possible? Probably not. It's getting better. And the Inspire 2 is probably one of the best vehicles ever made. But it's, you know, once you get done purchasing it, it's about a $7,000 investment. It's a solid investment. Absolutely. It would be a solid investment. Absolutely. That drone I can see being future-proof for at least 2 years. And you can make that back. The thing is that you have to know all of the other... It used to be the hardest part was flying the drone. Building, tuning, getting the drone ready to fly the drone. Now that's the easiest part. Now it's... Do I have my FAA approval waivers set? Do I have my insurance current? Am I weathered in on the job here? Do I have, you know, is my client happy with my performance? It's all the things that had to do with the reason you were there in the first place and didn't have anything to do with the drone itself. Now the drone is a tool. We use the tool. We respect the tool. We know how to operate it. We know how to maintain it. We know how to fix it. I know enough about drones to be able to rebuild the thing if I have to, but there's a lot of non-user serviceable parts now. You send it in for repair. It's basically a flying piece of software. It's a flying smartphone now. And you don't fix your smartphones. You send it to Apple and you let them fix it. So when it comes to working with a drone this complicated, it takes a lot of the brain work off of it. It tells me everything I need to know about the drone. So I don't have to worry about that. But I still have to do the things that allow me to pay the bills and keep the drone running. So I still have to be a business. You've still got to keep your costs down below the money you're making. And I keep coming back to this. You have to be a professional in the field that you're being hired to do. You've got to be a professional filmmaker. You've got to be a professional photographer. If you're going to be working as a professional filmmaker,
it's not just learning the skills of flying the drone. It is also learning the skills of being a professional photographer, learning the skills of being a professional cinematographer. All of those together make you a proficient and successful drone operator. Parker, so once you land your drone, you take out your SD card or micro SD card. What do you do with it? Just hand it over to the customer, or do you have to do some editing with it?
Depends on the type of work we do. If I have a photo job, I'm going to be doing all the photo editing. I'm a photographer by trade and by experience. You have got to be a photographer if you want to be a drone photographer. The drone is a tool to lift a camera. It doesn't change anything. You're just lifting a camera higher. So if you don't know how to operate a camera, you don't know why you're using a camera, how to format, how to frame, how to do, work with light, you're not going to have a very successful time as a drone photographer because you're still a photographer. Once I download the imagery, I'm going to be doing all the post-processing and delivery to the client. For videos, we have a couple different ways we'll do it. 90% of the time, we're handing the footage directly to the end user, the client. We're going to hand it to a gentleman known as a DIT technician. That's a digital imaging technician or intake technician, and they are responsible for gathering all of the footage from all the cameras, doing color correction and doing all that. So those are good days. When we can hand over our footage to a DIT, we just moonwalk off, drop mic, moonwalk off stage. Right. That's a good day. If we're doing our own footage, we're shooting it the way we need to shoot it for the color correction and for the frame rate and the size. We'll do it ourselves. And then my editor, my cinematographer is also my editor. And so he takes it back to his workstation and he makes it into a production product. Most of the work we're doing now is work for production companies that needs us to just provide them a frame rate, a color space, the color temperature, and the particular shots that they need. Okay. What we're shooting is not as important as making sure we shoot it the way they want us to shoot it. So there are many times I'll show up on a job and I'll go, what are we doing today? And they'll go, we'll get to you guys later. I'm like, all right, cool. Let's go sit down and get the drone prepped. We'll sit there and we'll wait for them to get to the drone portion. And then they'll go, oh, we need you to fly from here to here and shoot the camera this way and we'll get the shot. Now our job is to make sure the drone's ready when we get ready to go. Okay. The drone's going to get the shot that they need immediately as soon as they need it, and that we're going to be able to land and provide them with a safe, appropriate product as quickly as possible, as safely as possible. That's the difference between a professional and someone who goes, oh, I can probably figure it out. You got to hit your mark. You got to be able to recreate your mark. And a lot of it is learning how a film set works. And so it's very similar to the way that I've worked in the military. There's a strict hierarchical order. There is a chain of command. Everyone's got their job that they do. There's not a lot of deviation from your particular role. So when I show up on a film set, my job is to fly. It is not to help the lighting guys. It is not to get in the way of the sound people. It's not to go mess around with the craft table. It's to sit there and wait to fly my drone. And when it's time for me to fly, I get ready to go and I go.
Being prepared to do what you're asked to do and nothing else. Keep your eye on what you need to be doing.
To be as professional as possible with your drone and to be able to get the shot. So your job as a drone pilot is to get the shot that they need at the moment they need it. Right. And so a lot of the times the cameraman, the director of photography, the DP that you're working with is going to be using terms that a cameraman would use. You're going to crane up, you're going to dolly left, you're going to dolly right. They don't think of the drone as a drone. You're not going to fly through this and do that. They're going to say you're going to crane up and then you're going to dolly left and you're going to hang here. You're going to use the same terms that a film crew would use when you don't have a drone.
Vocabulary, whatever industry you're going into is going to have its own unique vocabulary. And I have never seen a career field that has got so much of a parallel. It's its own little world. There's a different language of how it operates that's built over years and years and years of efficiency. So it's very similar to the military. There's a different nomenclature for everything. There's a different method for it. But when they say, this is what happens, everyone's on their mark. Everyone's doing what they need to do. They're all professionals. They're not out there for fun. They're out there to get a product. It's kind of weird to see so many people make work so sternly for something so creative, but that is the way that system works because you're spending a lot of money. You've got truckloads of equipment, you've got generators, and you've got crew and cast, and you've got people making food, and you've got people, handling all the aspects of this. It has to work on time or it's going to cost a lot of money. So your job as a drone pilot, when you show up, is to not cost them any money. Exactly.
Be ready for the shot you need to do. Make sure you know how to do it before you do it. Practice out of sight if you have to, but make sure you're ready for them to say you're going to go from here to here and you're going to do from this to this and you get ready to do it. It's kind of anticlimactic, but if you pull it off, you're a superhero because you're saving them a ton of money on the amount of gear that they normally have to bring. Dolly cranes and dolly tracks and cranes and push carts and all that stuff costs a lot of money. We can often come in much less than that entire cost. And when they want to move the dolly track on us, we just fly in another direction. We don't have to pick up all the tracks and move. So we win every day when it comes to cost effectiveness if you can deliver the accuracy they require. And with the new drones now, that's relatively simple. So, but you have to get in the job site. You have to know, they have to know you know what you're doing or you're not going to get the work. That comes from mostly personal recommendations. You've got to do work with people that know you do good work, and then they recommend you for bigger work. So that's my suggestion, is just to get in with people that are getting started and just be their pilot, be their people, and learn with them. Because you, on your first day on the job, are not going to be able to do as well as you are on the last 100th job. It's just the way everything works.
It's practice, practice, practice.
Absolutely.
Learn the craft, learn from the basics, get the basics down, become more creative, get more experience, network with people, find out who's doing what, how you can offer them value, and then supply them the value. And then in turn, you will get recommendations to go out and be on a film set or do other production jobs.
Yeah, I like to ask people, did you get your money's worth from us? Did you get what you expected to pay for or more? And then I'm happy. If you are thinking, well, we really didn't use you for the extent I paid you for, I'm like, well, then we should have talked about that in the negotiation phase. But traditionally, I'm usually worth much more to my clients. And even especially in like the building inspections, it costs thousands upon thousands, sometimes up to $30,000 to establish scaffolding around a building for inspections. Okay. I can show up with a drone that's got proximity avoidance like a Phantom or a Mavic or a new Inspire and get right up along that building and ride up and down the building very easily. And then I don't have to worry about having them put up. I can get better quality imagery at less time. I can do it all, an entire building in a couple hours. It'll cost them, anywhere
days and a lot more
days and thousands of dollars more. It'll cost them many, many more times the money. And so it's kind of a no-brainer once they see what you can do with it.
Saving time, saving money, use a drone.
Yeah, or when it's appropriate, use a drone. But always know the limitations of your own piloting. If you're going to be put in a situation where, it's not safe, then just say, look, this isn't safe. I've scrapped missions before. I walked into a large cathedral once, the Church of St. John the Divine in New York, and they asked us to fly, and we had a drone that was flying okay, and I flew it up into the dome, and it was black. It just disappeared. And I'm like, we're landing. We can't fly this. It's not safe. I had the technical skill. I had a drone that was working fine. We had the camera that could see what we could go, but we're flying it into a black hole in a large cathedral, and suddenly I'm like, my safety switch was flipped and I'm just not doing it. It's the pilot's responsibility at all times to call safety. The PIC, pilot in command, is the reason he's calling the pilot in command is because he's in charge. It's his job. He is the safety lead on that job. If there's an accident, it's the pilot's fault. He's running the crew. So you have become the professional that the film production looks to make sure you can accomplish the shots they need safely. Overall safely, then beautifully. If you're leaving blood in your trail, but it's a gorgeous shot, it's probably not worth it. Right. Because those people are professionals. The next day they have to go to work, and if you're reckless, you won't be invited back. Full stop.
Fantastic.
I would say that the flying part the building and flying part used to be 80% of my job, and now it's somewhere around 30. Okay. It's still a business. The drone is the least of my worries now. It's, do I have more work coming in? Is it, am I legal right now? Those questions will cause your business to go out of business. I mean, if you get violated by the FAA, they'll take your license for 2 years. So people who are flying recklessly, and I believe that we should talk about that.
Exactly.
And people who are flying recklessly are endangering themselves, but they're also endangering their own ability to make their own money. So professional pilots don't fly recklessly. We don't even enjoy doing it for fun, because the problem is that we're one mistake away from bankruptcy. Because this is our gear. People go, you're a professional pilot. Like, I'm the last person to be reckless with my gear, because I own this gear. I have to use this gear to pay my rent. This is my job.
That is why you'll very rarely see professional drone operators recklessly flying their drones, because it is their business. And if their equipment gets ruined from flying recklessly, they cannot perform their business and they're out of money.
And we look like clowns in front of our clients. Our clients pay us to be the people that solve their problem. If we're causing problems, we are not the people they're going to bring back. It's that simple.
And that's what we want. We want recommendations. We want happy customers who will recommend us to other potential customers.
So I would like to talk about people that don't fly safely. And
hold on. Well, I've seen on YouTube some people, we won't mention names, who just take their drones up over Manhattan and fly it around.
Who've lost multiple drones into the river.
Who've lost multiple drones, crashed multiple drones. If they do it, why can't we do it?
24 million YouTube followers, people like that? Maybe? Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay. There are individuals around that are, we just ran into a bunch of kids in a parking lot about 2 hours ago who knew who this person was. These 8-year-old kids are watching these videos and they are learning how to operate a drone, and they think this is the right way to do it. And the operators that are being unsafe, and filming it and putting it on YouTube, are giving professionals a really hard time, because the cops now view all drone pilots as reckless, because the people with 24 million YouTube views are now posting videos online. There's
But it looks so beautiful.
If you're not being safe, I don't care if it's gorgeous. You're going to get somebody hurt or you're going to endanger somebody. The rules are in place. You know, the common perception amongst the FAA rules is that, oh, they're just fun governors, right? They're just out to take away our ability to earn money. That's not correct. The FAA's job is to maintain the safest airspace system in the world, full stop. Anything that violates that, anything that threatens that safety needs to be closely examined to make sure it stays safe. They were caught pretty flat-footed by the drone explosion. They had no idea how to keep up. Now, other countries had worked a little quicker on it, but they had a lot of moving parts. And so the 333 exemption process that was in place until just last year was kind of a square peg to bash into a round hole so that people could operate in a system that wasn't tailored for it. The 107 laws that are now built for they're built for autonomous unmanned aerial systems. So that's any remotely controlled flying vehicle from 0.5 pounds to 55 pounds. That's planes, blimps, helicopters, remote control drones, all that stuff that's remote controlled between 0.5 and 55 pounds can be operated by somebody with a 107 license. You think it's a drone license. It's not. It's a remotely operated UAS system, unmanned aerial systems license.
And that is for people who want to commercialize and make money with their drones.
It's the only way you can make money with a drone. You cannot fly commercially without a 107 now.
And a 107 is for people who want to make money with their drones, which is what this show is all about, making money with your drones. If you're just for flying around for fun and for recreation, you will not need a 107.
Correct. The 107 rule, the definition of commercial, and this is very important, is if you're trading your services for any sort of compensation. You can't say, well, he's just renting my time and I'm flying the drone for free and giving him the pictures as a thank you. It doesn't work. If you're being traded for a sandwich in exchange for photos, that's being paid for your work. So you need a 107. Now, does that mean you shouldn't fly recreationally? No. If you want to give the photos that you're taking away, go ahead. If you want to use the photos online, that's another thing. If you're being paid for those photos at any time, you're now commercial. So you need to be careful about that.
Even if you put them on YouTube and you do monetization on YouTube, you are now making money. Even though it's very little money, you will still be making money and you will fall under the 107.
Yeah, I don't agree with that interpretation, but that is a commonly accepted interpretation. Other interpretations are if you're making money flying a drone for a drone race, you need to have a 107 license. Some of the, because you're actually being paid to fly a drone. Now, I don't fully agree with that. I don't think that's actually a very logical, I think that's pretty straightforward. That's not commercial work. Right. But there are quite a few drone pilots who have 107s because there's some leagues that require it. So in order to get the 107 license, you need to pass a 60-question test. You need to get 42 questions right. So you can get 18 questions wrong on something you should know. The average pass rate now is getting up there in the 90s. It's really not an impossible test. The things that they want you to understand, there's no gimmies, there's no gotchas, there's no surprises, there's no trick questions. They want to make sure that you understand the airspace system that you're operating in. Can you read the map? Can you read a weather report? Do you understand when you need to call in or when you need to get a waiver and when you don't? Can you understand the basic principles of flight? It is the only test that I'm aware of that the FAA offers that gives you the study guide for the test. Read the study guide. You're ready to take the test. It took me 35 minutes to take the test. I got a 96 on the test. I was one of the first people that got it. I got it on the second day it was available because I wanted to immediately begin transitioning into commercial ops because I was ready. I've already been doing it. I wanted to be fully legal. Do
you need to have as much information as a certified pilot would to be knowledgeable about this?
Many aspects of commercial pilots, many aspects that I had to learn when I was going through my light sport training or a private pilot license is not applicable. You don't need to know weight and balance. You don't need to know night operations. You don't need to understand how to talk on the radio other than what you're listening for. There's so many things that aren't really applicable to drone piloting that they're not going to make you learn. It's not like, well, why did they make me learn about, fuel quality? I got a battery powered drone. You don't need to learn.
And that stuff won't be on the
won't be on the test. Exam. And everything that's in the study guide that's on the FAA.gov/UAS website, test pilot study prep.
Well, test link in that in our show notes.
It's it's UAS/UAS, FAA.gov/UAS. All of the stuff you need. You can file your waiver. You can check on your license. You can get the study guide. It's it's well written as government regulations go. There are also apps that you can use for your phone and your iPad that are amazing that I've purchased. I have the flight test prep app from Aero Apps that I love. It's $30. It wasn't $30 when I bought it, but it's really good. It gives you all the questions that you're going to get, more or less. There's only so much information they're pulling the test questions from. So there's a lot of professional test question writers that are using that material to write questions. Now, they aren't exactly word for word, but they were the same information. So if you can pass the pre-test online and you can pass the app, you're ready to take your test. You're going to walk in. The first question is going to be easy. And you go, I got this. And you're going to nail it. So if you do not have that license, you're probably wrong. You need it. It's not impossible. It's $150 for the test, and you're a professional pilot.
And if you do fail it, which is a small percentage of people,
no penalty.
There's no penalty.
I think you got to wait like 60 days to take it again.
And then you can take it again.
I don't know. Don't quote me on the number, but it's not an extensive date. It's like you have to wait a little period of time to retest it. It has no final effect on if you take it or not, and it's okay. I mean, if you know what you're doing, if you've studied and you've read it, and you don't think you're just going to pull it out of your butt when you walk in, and you know how to read a sectional, most importantly, if you know how to read a sectional map, and they give you the study guide that helps you with that, if you can do all that when you walk in, you still have to get 18 questions wrong. You're not going to get 18 questions wrong. You're going to be fine. You're going to walk out with a license and you're going to feel amazing. And there are a lot of companies right now that are trying to build up commercial enterprise drone operations for inspections and for large corporate events, large corporate organizations. They need pilots. So get your 107, and you don't have to do this all on your own like I am. You can work under someone else's infrastructure. You can be working under a company that's got their own plan, and they've already got their insurance, and they've got a whole fleet of vehicles, and they just need you to be a pilot following their procedures. If you need to build time to to start out on your own, man, that would be an amazing way to go. And even for me, I'm thinking maybe I should go fly for some railroad company somewhere.
So once you study, pass your 107 exam, you do have a lot of options open to you. You can start your own business, or you can be an employee for another company and be their in-house drone pilot.
But they will not hire you without a 107. So it's the bare minimum. You need that license. So you cannot even start the process without studying. And it's the smallest insurmountable hurdle you've ever gone through in your life. It's really not a hard test to take. If you want to do this, you should already want to know this information anyway, because it's going to make you a better pilot.
Being a better pilot is what we're all about.
Safer and more effective to your clients.
Okay.
I've got enough other stuff going on. I teach and I build and I design things for people, and I work my own jobs, and I do a lot of construction work that's over the winter stuff and stuff like that. So I'm being able to pay the rent, but we call them the lean months in the winter. People who aren't prepared for the lean months, I mean, the first couple of years, you're not going to make any money doing this. So you have to be doing other things. A lot of people that are getting into this and being successful they're already photographers and filmmakers. So they just add this tool to their repertoire. Nowadays, you can be someone other than a professional full-time drone pilot. I'm kind of an anachronism. I'm kind of a dinosaur. Pure drone pilots nowadays are not as needed as they used to be. Now you can go to the store and buy a drone and fly it and muddle through it. Now I'm getting results that are much different, much higher level effects, because I'm flying much more aggressively, because I'm much more professional. I'm a good pilot. That's what I get paid to do. I get paid to fly in strange places and tight spaces, super high speeds, super high tolerances, repeatable stuff, because I've been flying every day for 14 years. I've been flying a lot, and that's what I do. And it sounds like bragging, but I'm just really proud of it. So I finally am at a point where I can look in the mirror and I go, I know who I am, and I love it. It's cool. However, it's really kind of scary to see the technology that can just be purchased with a checkbook, and that there is no learning curve on the design, and there is no learning curve on the tuning. It just works. There is no tuning. It just operates. So that means that I had to have kind of a come to Jesus meeting with my crew. And I had to say, guys, I've now realized that I don't have to be the king of the nerds anymore. I need to do my job so that you can do yours, and we can be creatives and we can get our product right. Okay. That is the kind of thing that you need to stay focused on. At the end of the day, it's just a tool. It's the product you're trying to gather that's important. The rest of it's just the technology is making that easier and easier and safer and safer. And that's incredible. And it's amazing. It's getting cheaper too. So it's a great time to start, because 2 years from now, we're going to look back and go, that trash now is cosmic. That Inspire 2 and the Phantom 4 Pro, those things weren't even, if you were to sit me down 5 years ago and say, what would the perfect drone be? I wouldn't be half as far up the capabilities list as what we have right now.
Wonderful.
3 years from now, they're going to be automatically tying themselves into the air traffic control system. They're going to be different control inputs. The cameras are going to be amazing. They're going to be half the cost again, and
twice as powerful.
Twice as powerful. And they can't get much more powerful than 70 miles an hour and 16,000 feet service ceiling. That's incredible. There is an engineering method here. There's an engineering limit here where you have to be able to produce power to be able to lift a certain amount of weight for a certain amount of time. And to get that all done, you can't violate the laws of physics. You still have to lift that weight with thrust, and you have to hold it up there for a certain amount of time. So maybe batteries are going to change, but for now, I can't imagine how it can get much better. They keep finding ways to do it.
We're going to have a super small 8K camera, 8K 360-degree camera very soon.
Well, what do you watch it on? That's the thing. So
in 3 years' time, we're going to have surround sound, surround TVs, and
you're going to be able to
TVs
live broadcast from the little dot on your hat, the concert you're at. We're going to be live streaming. I mean, we have over here. We've got a perfect example right here. Hold this. Right here, we've got a 4K Samsung Gear VR camera that is the size of. Watch me drop this on camera. That's why I always twist the bottom, not the camera.
Tip for you, folks. Twist the bottom, not the camera.
Yeah, never twist the camera, because you go, whoosh, and spin it right off. So this camera here ties into a smartphone and has more intelligence in it than this is a $300 VR camera. It doesn't blink. It doesn't.
In the palm of your hand.
Yeah. And I believe it's 4K. We just got this last night. We're building a gimbal for it. But it is the kind of thing we just stared at it for a little while and went, oh, we live in the future. This is insane. There's a certain limit to size for optics. You need to be able to have an optic wide enough for light to get into it, right? So at a certain point, there is going to be a minimum size. But you saw the size of the camera on the Mavic today. It's the size of a pinky thing. It's tiny. It doesn't need, and it's a 4K sensor. It doesn't need to be. It's amazing. It's amazing. Because a lot of it is post-processing and software. It's using a high-quality sensor. It's using good software. It's using a stable platform. If you're going to buy one drone and you don't know much about drones, you cannot really go better than buying a Mavic. It's going to keep you out of trouble. It's going to fly a long time. It's going to be small enough to carry. I like to tell people, I said, what's the best camera in the world? They go, whatever, bread, whatever, and this and that. I go, no. It's the camera you have on you when you need a camera. When I borrowed that Mavic from DJI, and I was incredibly, incredibly fortunate to have been able to get my hands on one for a week, and I was the coolest kid in school because there were only a few of them, and I still thank you, DJI. It was the most amazing gift. I took it to the Eddie Adams workshop, which is a bunch of professional photojournalists, combat photojournalists, a lot of them, and I showed this to them, and I showed them this drone, and I said, I have broken this drone out more in the last week than I've ever broken out any other drone. And I fly drones for a living. I keep it on the front seat of my car, and I go, I got to pull over, and I've got to break out the drone out of the trunk and put the props on it and get it all ready. And it's going to take me 5 minutes. And I'm standing on the side of the road because the sun's going down and it's really cool. Look at those clouds. Or I just open up the sunroof, place the Mavic on the sunroof, perk out my phone, turn it on, and fly from the car, looking at the drone, fly from the car, get the shot, land it, reach up to the sunroof, grab it, pull it into the car, and drive away. And I was up there 2 minutes. The drone you have when you need a drone, just like the camera you need when you have a drone. I broke that thing out so often because it's so convenient. It's so easy to use. There's no, I've got to do all this crap. You just flip out the arms, push the power button, put it on the top of the car, sees GPS, take off and fly, and you're good to go.
How many photographers, professional photographers out there have just said, let me just take out my smartphone for this quick little shot? So it's what you have with you. It's the quickest and easiest thing to get a shot.
Yeah. And it's convenience and ease of use. And they've done everything they can to make it. Even the noises it makes. If you're walking into a casino and all the noises are soothing, it's like, stay here and spend your money. The Mavic, when it starts up, it doesn't go, it's like this this very soft, ringing tone that's just like, oh, this is cool. It's smart. It's not threatening at all. It's designed to not be scary and threatening. And, you know, we had an 8-year-old kid today flying one that had never flown a drone before in his life, and he wasn't terrified of it. He was like, we just showed him how to use it. And adults are the same way. People land with the Mavic and they look at me and they go, oh, I got to get one of those. I heard that everyone said the same thing.
The Mavic is version 1.0 of this technology. Yeah. Well, at this current moment, the Phantom lines from DJI, for instance, is at their, it says the 4th version or 5th version.
What I was telling you earlier is that the drone itself, when you look at the cockpit, your office, it's exactly the same. So the internals and the functioning and the way it worked on a Mavic is the exact, it's very, very, very similar. Even the modes, very similar. And I would be shocked if they didn't do this, is of a Phantom 4. So what they did is they just took the Phantom 4 and they shrunk it down into a smaller platform because they didn't need as large motors. And a lot of that is just motors to lift that stuff. Put a tiny camera on it, so you need a smaller drone. Use the same brain, put it in a Mavic. I'm sure it's a lot more complicated than this, but it operates the same as a Phantom 4. So they didn't, the way DJI does it is they don't reinvent, they evolve. Like you said, it's the 4th evolution of the Phantom, but the Mavic is just a shrunken down version of it. It's all microprocessors anyway. So put a small camera on it. You don't need big as motors. You put folding arms on it, and then you've got yourself a personal drone. Version 2 of this thing is going to be probably have sensors all over it like the Phantom 4 Pro. They don't evolve. Like they don't, like the one
huge leaps. They're not huge leaps.
It's an evolve. The Inspire was a new way of looking at the way that it was like, oh, it's a cinema drone. Like, oh, that's nice, whatever. And then I flew it and I was like, damn it, it's perfect. The V1 Inspire was the best drone I'd ever flown. It was like flying a Lotus. And I was thinking, this is really cool. And so what they do with the Phantom 1, the Inspire 1 Pro, better camera. We needed that. Awesome. Thanks. More powerful motors to lift it. Awesome. And now they came out with the Inspire 2, which is 67 miles an hour, 0 to 50 in 2 seconds. I can chase race cars now. I've got a better camera. It's got a newer sensor. The sensor they used on it was relatively
When we saw that thing fly earlier today, it is a racehorse. It is like driving a Maserati full out on the racetrack.
And it's little things like, you know, on the back of the Inspire 1 transmitter, it's got a micro HDMI plug to run out video. And it's nice because it's small, but it's always kind of been a pain in the ass because you have to have an adapter and it's always not enough surface area. So it's always kind of going in and out. So on the new one, they put a full size HDMI. It's little things like that, like little bitty quirks that I didn't even think to talk to DJI about. Someone spotted that and went, that's stupid. Let's put the regular plug on it. And everyone uses full size HDMI on a film set. So if you're going to use micro HDMI, not only do you have to find the adapter and put it in there, you have to make sure the thing stays still because it's just a little tiny flat piece of metal. So now they fixed it. It's little things like that. And I'm sure they've done 100 different improvements across the board that you don't even see. They put an FPV camera on it so the pilot can see out the front of his drone while he's flying. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to see the monitor and the camera's off aspect and I think I'm flying sideways, but I'm actually flying forward and I've tried to correct and I've put it into something. Now I can use my camera and see my view and I can see exactly where I am and what I'm doing. Stuff like that makes my job safer.
Good.
Not easier, safer. So I can go fly tomorrow. Because if I'm going to drop 10 grand on a drone system, I want it to work all year, every time.
Fantastic. Parker, I want to thank you very much for your time today. I greatly appreciate it. If people are interested in your company and more about you, how can they contact you?
Our website is propheadsphoto.com, and you can also look up Propellerheads Aerial Photography. There is a software company called Propellerheads that makes audio software. We're Propellerheads Aerial. We're based in New York. And we have all of our information is on our website. We have a Twitter feed and an Instagram, but we don't have a lot of we don't use our Facebook much. So best way to look at it is on our website, propheadsphoto.com.
Fantastic. Again, thank you very much. Appreciate you taking the time today, and we look forward to chatting with you on our next exciting episode where we can make some wonderful and profitable results with drones.
Thanks, guys.
Bye for now.